When you think of American art, you might think of a stern Midwestern couple holding a pitchfork, the Thanksgiving paintings of Norman Rockwell, the pop art of Andy Warhol, or the graffiti-inspired expressionism paintings of his protege Basquiat. But you'd be leaving out one of the most important American art movements, and one that dominates the cultural landscape. The art movement I'm talking about is Chicano art. Chicano culture started in the 1960s in the southwestern United States. It's a combination of Mexican and American cultures, also infused with a sense of revolution as these Mexican Americans fought for their right and their place and found their identity in the United States. That identity quickly developed an aesthetic that is undeniably cool. That's why the fashion, music, and car styles from this culture remain popular to this day. Now, like most cultures, there are subcultures within this group, and there was a group of Chicano artists that went the college route and the art world route and made paintings that were popular and famous. But there's also the street culture associated with the Chicano art movement, where Chicano culture combined with LA gang culture is really where some of the most interesting Chicano art has come from. You will often see this style of art used in tattoos. Often this art may be even produced by people that are incarcerated, but it is very masterful, it's well drawn, it's particularly well shaded, and that's why we're going to use it for our class, is to look at it as a way to learn shading. Before we get to the how-to, let's listen to a brief interview with a Chicano artist who talks about creating his art in jail.
I've always been, I lived the street life, and I've always got bad influences, bad, remarks from people. And me coming in here, getting feedback from, the top people, they're saying that you're real good at what you do, and it made me feel good because I never had that before in my life. I've always been put down, and hearing that from everybody makes me feel real good, and I want to keep going.
Well said, and I love how Chicano art is able to convey a toughness and a softness that's part of human nature. So, we're looking at this very American, very intense, culturally complex art, very masterfully done, and now I'm going to try to make one of my own artworks in this style, and I'm going to break it down step by step. The first thing I'm going to do is use some reference images. I'm going to use reference images so that I'm drawing subjects that are of the theme and traditional subjects in this style, but I'm going to combine them in a new way to make my drawing unique. We're going to take it step by step. Here we go. I'm starting with a light pencil to make a light ghost drawing on my final paper, but you can also see on a smaller piece of paper where I've sketched out my idea. Now, my goal here is really to just get the sizing and the placement and the shape of all these subjects down lightly. With the light ghost drawing done, I'm going to go back and darken up some of the lines, neaten them up, make sure the outline is nice and neat, and then I'm going to start shading. Now normally I would start shading from the top left down to the bottom right, but since the bottom right of this drawing is a little bit easier and more simple, I'm going to start there to kind of get practice and then work up towards the more complex area on the top. In this first round of shading, I'm going to be focusing on the light faded areas of shading, and then I'm going to go back over it and get the dark patches of shading at the end. With all the light shading done, I'm going to grab a darker shading pencil, or I'm going to just start pressing harder with a regular pencil. Either way can work, and I'm going to go into those deep, dark shadows and fade into the light areas. This step is really going to pop the drawing. After lots of work and lots of shading, this Chicano style drawing is done. I love working in this style because you can really get lost in the shading while you're doing it, and when you're done, you end up with a really neat, clean drawing. So shout out to all the Chicano artists who innovated this style, and now go make one yourself.